You're listening to Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at SBT Songs, or check us out at chrisblair.com. What's up, everybody? Chris Blair here, and you're listening to another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. And today I sat down with Jordan Rager. Jordan's from Georgia, and he's going to talk about how he started coming to Nashville at a young age before he was ever close to being 21, and he was sneaking into Whiskey Jam, which is a really cool thing that they do here on Mondays. Ward Gunther, a good friend of mine, started that. Ward, by the way, is also a great DJ on Apple Music Country, so check that out. Jordan talks about how he kind of built his network, and that led to his first cut with Jason Aldean, a song called All Out of Beer. He did the same thing and kind of snuck into venues to meet Corey Smith, and he talks about that song and dives into a song that they wrote together eventually called Learning to Drive. He's going to play a little bit of both of those songs along with one of his newer songs called The Show Goes On that's going to be coming out soon. It was a great episode. I love sitting down, getting to know him better, and it was just a lot of great advice and great stuff that's going on in the industry. So check this out. This is Jordan Rager, and we appreciate you listening. Subscribe, hit the follow button, all the things. We love what we do, and we appreciate you for watching. Let's get to it. Here is Jordan Rager. All right, here we are. Jordan in the house. What's up, dude?
We made it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank y'all for having me. This is really cool. I've been looking forward to this for like a long time.
Yeah, sitting up here with empty room.
I told y'all when I got here, like, this almost feels like I'm not allowed to be here.
Yeah.
Like, I know y'all invited me and I'm supposed to be here, but like when pulling in, I have never like parked here. Like, it's always been valet for like a show, whether I was watching.
Like, what do I do?
Yeah. I literally text Zach and I was like, what do I do? Like, where do I park? So he had to come get me. So this is fun, man.
I love it. Well, yeah, man. Appreciate you coming in and looking forward to hearing more of your story. So, let's just start from the beginning. What is your story? How'd you get to Nashville?
With a dream and like not a lot of thought past that.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen my first apartment in Nashville with my own eyeballs before I moved into it. The best I did was like a FaceTime call with my roommate's dad. He kind of just walked the apartment and we were like, this looks good. And Travis Denning is the guy that, not to name drop early, but like that Travis was my roommate at the time, and we were making a lot of music out of Georgia and, you know, playing a lot of shows together. And so doing the trips back and forth already, we were like, what if we just moved there? And being 19 and 20-year-old impulsive kids, it didn't take much of a push.
Why not?
Yeah. So when Travis's dad found that apartment, I think it was something like, y'all can just sign y'all's names on the lease the next time you're up here, and it's yours. But it's basically yours now. Just come and get it.
Yeah.
And we hung up that call, and I looked at Trav, and I said, and I think we were in like Valdosta, Georgia at this point. I looked at Trav, and I said, I don't have anything to do like tomorrow. And he goes, sure. And we make our way up to Nashville that next day, and that was January 19th of 2014.
Wow.
And it was like, I mean, like, there's some buildup before that we'll get into, but man, I wanted to be here, and I had always kind of been a follow it kind of person, even as young as I was at that point. So I was like, this is the time to do it. So let's go do it.
Yeah.
And I leapt.
So was the dream like, I want to go write country music? Because you didn't grow up listening to country, right?
I did, but my dream was more or less just to write songs.
Yeah.
Like, that was where my fever for music started and my love for it. I had two loves. I had two loves early in my life: sports and music.
Yeah. And
music felt like that, like, far-fetched, like, superstars do this for a living, not regular people kind of thing.
Yeah.
And for some reason, baseball felt a little more tangible. I don't know why, but those were my first two. Like, I was going to play second base for the Braves, or I was going to play music forever. Even as young as I was as like a child, I remember being like, those are the things I want to do. And
I feel like you picked the right path, because you've been super successful in songwriting, and had you played for the Braves, all you would have done is just been beat up by the Cardinals. It would have been terrible.
I deserve that. I brought that up. First of all, super successful is a stretch, but I I definitely think I went the right way because I don't break 5'10", so I wouldn't have lasted very long playing baseball. And I love my life now, and I love the job that I have. But I got started playing music just basically because I wanted to. I had this like little beater guitar that was at my house. I don't even know how we came about it, honestly. And I was struggling to kind of learn it, and I was getting frustrated with it. This is like I'm 13 or 14.
Yep.
And I think my dad noticed there was something in me that like wanted to learn, but I was young and I needed that initiative to like drive myself, And so I think it's the summer that I'm 15 years old. He hits me with, if I come home from work and you're playing the guitar, no chores. I won't ask a thing of you all summer. Just be playing guitar, learn something new. And that was the initiative I needed to just kind of pick it up, and I haven't put it down since. And that was I started playing guitar, and I started to kind of learn songs that I liked. And
what were some of your early influences?
Well, so country and gospel were the things that my folks were listening to when I was a kid, but that was basically it. And then like I heard like some mainstream stuff, but like country and gospel was what I was raised on.
Yeah.
Like I was born in 94, so like country music was like always on in the car. Yeah. And my folks loved that stuff, and they introduced me to it. And then my taste in music started to form when I found out about Green Day, more specifically American Idiot. That album lit my head and heart on fire when I heard it. And I was like, I want more of that. So that was like Green Day was like my gateway drug into like other rock and roll music that I still have a great fondness for to this day.
Yeah.
And so when I started to form my own, I guess like my biggest influences became like in the country space, Alan Jackson is number 1, Merle Haggard is number 2, and Eric Church is number 3. Those are my big 3 there. And then it became like the punk rock and the call it emo or whatever like they call it now. That was like cool in the early 2000s. It starts with Green Day and Blink-182 and Sum 41 and Newfound Glory, and then those bled into bands like The Story So Far and A Day to Remember, and that somewhere along the way made me really like the blend of music. And it makes me stand out in Nashville a little bit because a lot of people want it to be country, and that's fine, but that was never my goal, was to be country. It was more or less just to make music that I thought was cool.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that music is ultimately called anymore.
Right.
Like I thought it was going to be country when I got here, but that was 10 years ago. And I have a lot of influences and a lot of different styles of music that I'm only just in the last couple of years, I feel like I'm getting to touch into. Like I was using them, but it was almost like I was subconsciously using them.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I can be a little bit more intentional with my tools, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So it's been a journey, man, but it was the love of storytelling in country music. The lyrical content was like what made me want to write songs and music.
Yeah.
Stories, words. When I was a kid in like elementary school and middle school, high school actually, I was writing like poems. They were songs to me because I had the music in my head, but like they were just words that rhymed.
Yeah.
Because I had them in my head and I wanted to get them out. And those were like the first versions of like songs, and they were terrible. And I hope they never get heard or see the light of day. I did find a notebook the other day that's got some old stuff in it, and I was like, oh my God, I was right. This is terrible. This is really bad.
Yeah, but at the same time, like how cool, like that, your brain was already starting to work like that. And I mean, it's, I think that's really cool that there's not a lot of people that, at that age were probably being creative in that way.
Yeah. Like, and I was always very artistically driven.
Yeah.
Like my parents had to like take markers away from me because I'd draw on like the walls and myself and clothes and tables, and like, it didn't matter. Like I just wanted to like draw. And I mean, like, I would doodle in like my textbooks in school, like while I was supposed to be paying attention. Like my favorite class was art class in middle school, so I was really cool. And like I was an art nerd and a music nerd, and I also liked sports, but I wasn't like all that good at them. I just liked watching them.
Yep.
And like I was never like bullied or like super sad or anything like that. But like in 6th grade, I moved to a new town and started middle school without knowing like anybody.
Dude,
so like,
I did the same thing.
Really?
Yeah.
That shit sucks. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know if I can. My
it's
bad.
a podcast. You can say whatever you want.
Yeah. It wasn't great, especially like I was 11 or 12. Like I had no friends.
Yeah.
I had to make all new friends in a new town at a really complex age. And music was very much my safe haven for the things I was feeling, whatever they were.
Yeah.
You know? And, you know, like I said, it was a very large blend of things because I was trying to like, I knew a lot of country and I knew a lot of gospel because that's what I was quote unquote allowed to listen to.
Yeah.
And then I had all the other stuff that I was finding for myself that I was like, ooh, I like this. I think I like this. What about this don't I like? And that's kind of what I mean when I say like my taste was forming.
Yeah.
Like I always feel like I was looking for the new sound or new music or the new band or the new artist that I liked or the new songwriter that I liked. Because when I figured out what a songwriter was, that was a whole new game. I was like, wait a minute, there's like people that specifically write the words. That sounds like fun. I want to do that. And that's when I learn about the more or less, I think that's when I start to learn about the country writers and the writers in Nashville that made a name being songwriters. Casey Beathard is always the first one that comes to mind for me. I learned his name and then I was like, oh, I like everything his name's on. Like almost 100% of his discography or his history as a songwriter is I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, that could be a cool thing to do. And I still didn't know how to get there. I just was like, maybe I want to do that.
Yeah.
You know? And that maybe I want to do that has kind of been my lead ever since.
I love it. So you and Travis on a whim,
Mm-hmm.
like, all right, let's do this. We got a place to go.
Yep.
So you moved to Nashville. What's next after that? How did you get out and start to build your camp, so to speak?
So shout out Jeremy Stover, who was the guy who kind of brought me out of Georgia and into Nashville and into the scene of country music. I was making some YouTube videos, like doing cover songs or whatever back in Georgia, and him and Justin Moore found them on YouTube. And they were looking for an artist to like put on their tour to be like their next, you know, like this is our protege guy. And they tapped me for that for some reason, because I think they liked a cover that I did of a Justin Moore song. And Stover called me out of the absolute blue, by the way. I'm like a 19-year-old kid driving to get groceries from my mom, and this 615 number pops up on my phone, and I don't know barely anybody in Nashville at this point in my life. And I better answer that, so I answer it. I'm looking for Jordan Rager. I said, you got him? He said, this is Jeremy Stover. I work with da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and he lists some things. And I said, yes, sir, I know who you are. Big fan. Like, I'm starting to fangirl on the phone. And I'm also trying to figure out which one of my buddies is messing with me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, long short, he asks me to come up to Nashville and talk to him and Justin a little more longer form about an idea they have. And that idea was called the Off the Beaten Path Tour. And I got to do like something like 60 dates with Justin. That's a long version of saying that's what made me ultimately, I have to be in Nashville. I was making the trip basically like 2 times a month, 3 times a month. Some months I was just in Nashville, crashing on couches with friends of mine and a couple of family members that live like not close, a couple, 45 to an hour out of town.
Yeah.
But I didn't care. I was excited to be in the zeitgeist of Nashville, and I wasn't going to slow down for anything. And I definitely wasn't going to think about it and be like, oh, why shouldn't I do this?
Yeah.
So
I want to get into stories behind the songs and start talking about specifically Aldean first. But before we get there, I have to bring this up because Ward Gunther was one of the first guys that I met. We moved to town the same year.
Yep.
We would hang out all the time at Tin Roof, and obviously, like, he's grown an incredible empire with Whiskey Jam.
I think he's done all right.
And if anybody out there listening, go follow him on Apple Country. He's a dear friend of mine. He just texted me because I was gonna have him call in and call you out. He's in a little meeting at Red Bull right now.
That's way more important. Than what we're doing.
But we were talking about how you would sneak into, or not sneak into, but I guess lie your way into Whiskey Jam.
Whatever it took.
Before you were 21.
That's right.
But it made you meet a lot of people. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, when I started coming to Nashville, I think I was like 18. That was like the first like trips for business I remember taking. And I had a handful of friends that had lived in town. Like Thomas Archer is a songwriter in town, very successful at this point, has just moved to Nashville, 2012. And he starts talking about this thing called Whiskey Jam. And I keep hearing about it. And that's what everybody's doing on Monday. And I'm like I said, I'm 18. I know I'm not old enough to get in there, but I can talk. So I just basically like would get in line, and then I'd get in line with my friends and I would try to make conversation with the bouncer. It would almost never work because I'm 18 at the time and I looked probably 13 or 14. I was just a younger looking dude.
Yeah.
And, but man, sometimes it would work. And then I would get in and like, and my whole spiel was basically like, I'm not here to cause trouble. I want to make music. I want to write songs. And it wasn't really a beg thing. It was more or less just like, hey man, if you let me in, cool. If you don't, I'm totally understanding. I'm not trying to fight you on that.
So you were telling them you weren't 21.
Straight up, I was like, I'm not going to drink anything tonight on my mama's life, but I really want to get in there because there's people in there that I want to be connected with and get to know
that's cool.
better.
Yeah.
And sometimes it would work. And Rob Snyder, actually, who went on to do Revival and Tin Roof, was one of the guys that kind of would let me, I hope I'm not getting him in trouble saying this, but like he kind of let me by.
Yeah.
And then once I was in, I got to know Ward and I got to know Josh. And Josh actually became my in more often than not because I got his number and then I was just like, hey, can I come? And he's like, yeah, dude, just bring your guitar. It's fine. And so then my lie was, yeah, I'm just playing tonight, but I was doing it every week.
Yeah.
So at some point, the guys caught on and Ward was like, you can just like text me now and like we'll figure it out. And like I did my very, very best to behave and keep myself out of trouble. And I feel like for the most part I did.
Yeah.
Because I meant it, man. Like I was there for the right reasons. I didn't want to be some drunk loser in Winners. I wanted to be learning the names and people learning my name and my face. Because like I said, man, I moved to town to write songs.
A drunk loser in Winners.
In Winners.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so
sorry,
I love
Ward.
that story,
I hope I never got y'all in trouble, but like I knew it was. I
literally
had
was
to
like,
be there.
I wasn't even gonna bring it up, and I was just gonna be like, sorry, dude, I gotta make a phone call real quick and call him, and I was gonna have him FaceTime and like call you out.
Oh man, I love the intros that he gives me anytime I play Whiskey Jam to this day. Like it's always like, this dude's been coming and hanging out with us since before he was allowed to, or something to that effect. And it's just great, dude. I love him for also recognizing like a very real like passion in me, even as young as I was. Like I totally get it. I was a 19-year-old. Like I wouldn't believe me either now.
Yeah.
But like they did because they saw it, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. He's a great guy, great friend, and super passionate about artists and songwriters.
Yeah. And country music specifically too. Like and I think that's very important to like the country music scene. Like I said, like I don't necessarily care what my music is genre called, but I think for Ward, he's like a tastemaker in country music, and he cares about what he is presenting to the people, and that matters, man.
It does.
I call him the mayor of Nashville. He's like the actual mayor.
Yeah.
The mayor of Midtown.
Yeah. Yeah. Mayor of Midtown.
Yep.
And now on Broadway.
Yes.
Okay. Enough about Ward. I don't like him that much.
Love that guy, but this isn't about him anymore.
Okay, let's get back to you. So dive into, keep going.
I was just going to say, I think we were on, me and Travis are starting to like write songs, and one of those songs finds its way to Aldean.
Yep.
Me and Travis signed publishing deals with Jeremy Stover's Red Creative when we're, right after we moved to town. And I'm on the road with Justin Moore, and we're starting to build this catalog of demos, and I am floored with how good these songs sound. So I am flinging these demos to everybody. I cannot keep them in my phone long enough,
Yeah.
And Stover eventually has to tell me to stop doing that, But one of those songs got sent to Jason's dad, who I used to work with, and he basically laid it on Jason and was like, hey, this sounds like something you might like. Just like from a standpoint of like liking the song, I think. Yeah. I don't even think he was pitching it to him like, cut this, you know. I think it was more or less just like, I think you might dig this. And he did. And I remember it was the very first song that got put on hold for the They Don't Know record that it wound up on. And that was like right around Thanksgiving 2014.
Wow.
And for any songwriters listening, that's the same year I moved to Nashville. That's unheard of. Like does not happen. I got so lucky because, like I said, I was just flipping these demos out, and like I had a handful of people around me that knew some folks. Like I said, Jeremy Stover was putting me in very important rooms that like I still have connections to, and I'm friends with some of the people to this day. Yeah. And so, you know, I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for Stover and Barry and, you know, their belief in me, but they were making sure that those songs and demos were actually going to the right places.
Yep.
And somehow Jason was one of those places. And another name I have to shout out with All Out of Beer is Jeremy Stover. A lot of Jeremys in my life. Jeremy Bussey was the third writer on that song. And me and Travis literally don't have that song without Bussey. He was the one that had the idea. He had the formed concept of what we were going to do. He just didn't have the words yet. And me and Travis started playing the, I think Travis was the one that had the, but I just kept going. And I liked those dun dun ba da dun dun da 4 on the floor rolling country songs at the time, because I was driving back and forth to Nashville, so I think I was in like a driving mood, right? You know? And so we're just, and Travis is, and so we have a form of something, and Jeremy starts to like lay this concept on us, and Jeremy is a very, very methodical songwriter, and I actually credit him. Like, I should do it more because, like, I think he taught me how to write songs, like, before anybody else did. Bussey,
did you hear that?
Bussey was one of the first dudes that, like, actually had any care for what I was going to say in the writing room, you know?
Yeah.
Like, no shade to anybody else, but I was an 18-year-old kid. I get it. I didn't want to listen to, like, I don't know what I would have been offering, but I thought I had something to say, and Bussey was willing to at least listen. And it must have been because he kind of like Ward, he noticed something genuine in me to want to do it. And I always wanted to get better. Like, I never thought I was the best, but I thought I was not wasting your time at the very least, you know? And anyway, so we actually wrote that song, All Out of Beer, before I moved to Nashville. That was like in that wave of like going back and forth to Georgia and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it was a demo that kind of sat on a shelf for a little while, and then all of a sudden it was somewhere. And like I started to say, it was the first song that got put on hold for the record. It was the very last song that got cut for that same record. And it went through every trial and tribulation of, they're in the studio today, they didn't cut it. I think they're going to cut it today. It wasn't today. I remember even a couple of times Jason calling me personally and going, hey, dude, it was on the list, and then something came in and we had to bump it, but I promise you we're going to get it next time. And those were always genuine, too. Like, he wasn't fluffing me. I knew he meant it because I knew he cared about the song. Because he kept telling me, don't play it for anybody else. I love this song. I'm going to do it. And I also knew he meant that because there were, like, other songs that he had on hold at the same time that he ended up dropping. And that one stood the test of time.
And didn't you send him like a bunch of songs too,
almost
right?
everything. Yeah. That's what I meant about like, I got so excited about the demos that I was making because I had never recorded music like that before at that point in my life that I was like, everybody's got to hear this. And I sent Jason everything the instant he said, yeah, man, send me some songs. And I was like, oh, okay. Unload my, whole demos in his inbox. You know? And it was the best thing I ever did because he kind of like, I don't know, like it was cool to get somebody. At the time, Jason was the top dog of top dogs. So I was getting kind of honest A&R feedback from Aldean on the first batch of songs that I was writing in town. So I was already ahead of the curve, I felt, learning what was a cool song to write in Nashville.
Yeah.
And like I said, I was doing that at the same time that I was in the room with Jeremy Bussey and Jeremy Stover and Jamie Paulin and, you know, people that kind of, like I said, let me kind of be the mess of a whatever you are at 20-nothing years old. I was trying to write music and they were like, yeah, go on. Just we'll form this lump of clay as you throw it at us.
Nice.
You know, and appreciate them for doing that. And that's how we wound up with All Out of Beer and the first handful of songs like that.
I want to hear a little bit of it, but let's go back to the writer's room. Mm-hmm. So you've got these licks that are going on. You're chunking away. You know, where was that right? Like, how quickly did it come out? Did it start in a direction and finish in that same direction? Like, just walk us through that.
Yes. Yeah. So it was all done in like one afternoon.
Okay.
It was not a booked write. Like typically, you know, we book the session for 10, 11 o'clock, whatever, or even 3 or 4 in the afternoon. That was not what happened. Me and Travis were lugging around Nashville just looking for something to do. And Bussy texted us and said, hey, what are you guys up to? I'm at Universal. I just finished up. This is at UMPG on 19th.
Yep.
Jeremy signed there at the time. And he's like, hey, I just finished up my morning and I've got this other idea kind of rumbling around in my head. And I kind of need to get it out. Y'all want to like work on something real quick? And so we sat down in one of those rooms upstairs at UMPG and kind of went to work chipping away. And it's funny now because like All Out of Beer is like very clearly like sad drinking song. And like I was 19. So like, what did I know about that? But I had heard enough of those songs that I feel like I knew what to emulate and how, like I recognized the sad emotion. I'd been sad at that point. I'd had a girl mess with me, or I'd had a buddy like hurt my feelings, or like whatever. Like I'd had like emotions at that point. So I was like, okay, I know how this feels. I think I know what the words can do, even if I'm not necessarily familiar with like drinking to get over a heartbreak at this point in my life. I think I know how to make this work. And God bless Bussy, because he was the one that was able to steer me and Travis in the right direction for all of that, you know. And man, those words were really fun to come up with from my memory. This was back in like September, October, maybe even like August, September, October timeframe of like 2013.
Yeah.
So like I was back and forth so much that there's no way that I could possibly remember like exactly when it was, but I know it was in that time frame. And I just remember it being so much fun to write that song, because it was something that all three of us were just genuinely excited to write. We weren't thinking about an artist that was going to cut it, and we weren't thinking about like a sound that we wanted to emulate. It was just like, this is a piece of music that we really, really dig and can't wait for other people to hear.
Yeah.
And fun side note, we finished that song. It was dark. We went to Whiskey Jam, and I probably snuck in that night to hang out. So
I love it.
So yeah, it was that wound up being my first cut as a songwriter in my career, and my first major cut. And it was such an unreal feeling. I remember it was February 24th, 2016, 3 days after my birthday. I got the phone call from somebody on Jason's team, and they held up the phone to the like audio board through the talkback. I can hear the lick being played by Kurt and the guys. And I'm in the car on radio tour at the time, and I got so excited, I jumped out of the bucket seat in the van, and I hit my head on like the top of the roof, and like it was like a whole thing, because it was a moment that like you think you know how you're gonna feel when you get it, or if you get it, and then it's better.
Yeah,
you know, like you can't imagine how good it is, and that ends up being that feeling that we're chasing all through this journey. You know?
Yeah. You can play a little bit of it?
Absolutely, I can.
Let's do it.
Let's see here. I've since learned how to play the lick, which was fun too. If you'd have got here before my buzz kicked in, I'd have told you where to go, and I'd have never let you in. Crashed out on a couch, waiting on that sun to come up. probably still be hating on you, saying I'm just glad it's over, acting like that was the truth. I would've had my walls, girl, I wouldn't care at all. So why you gotta wait until I'm gonna come around? When I ain't got no fight left, I got no way out. But I'm 12 and helpless. The only time you show up here is when you're lonely and I'm all out of beer.
Come on, dude.
It was it was so much fun to play too. Like that was like my dream as like writing songs too. Is I always remember that when I play that song is like, dang, that's so much fun to play. You know, like you know, when me and Travis get together, it's always fun to like kind of recreate that and get to do it too. So yeah, man.
Sweet. Thanks for sharing that, dude.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Brit Skin Beauty. Located in the beautiful Indulgence Medi Spa in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, Brittany is the go-to esthetician for facials, dermaplaning, microdermabrasion, waxing, lashes, and any skincare products and consultations. So many people in the music industry use her frequently, and her work speaks for itself. To schedule your next consultation or make an appointment, visit britskinbeauty.com or send an email to britskinbeauty@gmail.com.
Well, let's shift gears. I want to dive into Corey Smith. You've got a lot of stuff to talk about. So, yeah.
Speaking of sneaking into places, so I'm 17. There's a venue in Athens, Georgia, close to my hometown called the Georgia Theater. Okay. It is historic in the Georgia music scene. And Corey Smith plays there a lot. At this time, and I grew up like ripping Corey's music off LimeWire and listening to it on MySpace, and he was like that underground indie guy that I discovered that was so vastly different. All of it. The production was like DIY. It sounded DIY, and it was one of the first times that I heard like a very bare bones production that I really dug it. Like I know everybody talks about, like, I love acoustic music, and honestly, I do too, but, like, I really can't stand, like, shittily recorded good music, if that makes sense. It drives me crazy because, like, you can get good quality on good music. Like, it's so easy to do it, and Corey's was that authentic, genuine, I just did this in my bedroom because it needed to come out of me sound that I was craving at the time. And anyway, he's playing at the Georgia Theater. I'm 17, and I do the exact same old trick that I do at Whiskey Jam a few years later. I just kind of cuddle up to that bouncer, and I go, okay, so, like, you know, I make conversation with him, and then, like the long short of it is, like, I just go, like, hey, man, I'm a huge fan of Corey. Could you, like, color my hands with, like, a red X or something and, like, let me in if, like, I promise not to drink or whatever? And he first told me no, and then I kind of started to tell him how I'm a writer, and I started to kind of flub that story a little bit. Because at the time, I'm a 17-year-old that's playing, like, coffee houses and pizza places and Mexican restaurants around my hometown. You know, I'm very much green. And he was like, really? I was like, yeah, man, I'm just like, you know, I really want to, like, get in the scene or, like, whatever I said. And so, like, he parked me at the end of the ramp where he was standing for the rest of the show on a stool, and he said, if you move for anything, I'm gonna do something about it. And I was like, yes, sir, understood. And I didn't move from that stool the entire night, and I watched every single stitch of Corey's show. Wow. And it was one of, like, it's still one of my favorite shows I've ever seen with my own eyeballs, because it so wasn't supposed to happen, and it's still imprinted in my core memory. And, like, Corey wasn't really like a guy that I ever imagined getting to, like, work with creatively, because I already knew kind of through the grapevine that he writes a lot of it by himself, if not all of it by himself. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I didn't really have him on my checklist of, like, guys that, or my bucket list to get to work with. And then, shout out Jeb Gibson, another artist and writer in Nashville, hits me up and offers me a ticket to a Corey show in Nashville. This is summer of 21. And we get to hang out with Corey after the show. And that's where we start to like talk about like, you guys want to write sometime? Like Corey is asking us, you guys want to write sometime? And me and Jeb are like, what's happening right now? He's drunk. There's no way he means this, you know?
Yeah.
And he did. And dude, we went to work the next couple of years writing some really, really cool songs. And that was such a unique experience too, because like now in that setting, I'm the veteran songwriter and Corey is more or less the rookie co-writer. And I can say that because he literally told me that's how it felt, which was a mind-blowing thing for me to hear because, again, this is a dude that, like, I absolutely loved everything he put out when I was a teenager, and I listened to it front to back over and over. I knew every word.
Did he know that about you at that point?
Oh, yeah. When we first started working together, like, the first time I met him was, like, honestly, I think Jeremy Stover introduced us at Tin Roof, like, way back in the day.
Yep.
And then, like, I might have had some opening gigs for him, like, real early on in my career, but, like, he wouldn't remember them, and I made no attempt to talk to him because I wasn't going to be like, hi, like, you know.
Yeah.
So I didn't really meet him until what I consider, like, 21. We knew of each other, and we were aware of each other, but that was basically it. And when I started working with him creatively, I shot my shot. I was like, bro, can I just, like, not in a weird way, but, like, I just got to tell you, you're so important to me sitting here making music, you know? And I'm also, like, a firm believer of telling your heroes that,
sure.
You know?
Yep.
If you get to work with a hero or an icon or someone that you look up to, tell them that they're somebody that you look up to, that they're an inspiration and an influence, because in my experience, that means just as much to them as it does to you to get to say it.
100%.
You know?
Yeah.
So Corey was one of those dudes. I just, like, would tell him, like, yeah, dude, like, I absolutely loved your stuff when I was a kid, and, like, it's pretty crazy for me to sit here. And my favorite thing about Corey is he's such a real human being that he's an open book. He'll sit here and conversate just like me and you were talking, and it's not weird. It's not self-indulgent. It's not, like, he doesn't make me feel like germy or, like, awkward about, like, asking questions.
Yeah.
Because he knows I actually want to know, and I'm not trying to get anything out of him, and he probably doesn't get to, like, talk about, like, I don't know, like, it's very genuine convo. And it's fun. And I cannot believe that I have that relationship with Corey now, because that's just not, like I said, not somebody that was on the bucket list.
Yeah.
And I cannot believe that I get to, like, make music with that guy. And then it wound up with 2 cuts on his record that he put out last year.
Yeah, let's dive into Learning to Drive.
Yeah. That was me, Jeb, and Corey. I think that was the right that we booked.
Yeah.
And that song started, okay, so if All Out of Beer happened in one afternoon in one sitting, Learning to Drive was the exact opposite. We started it in one session, and it was a totally different idea.
Okay.
It was not called Learning to Drive. It was almost the same concept that the song is dealing with, where it's like young love going too fast, but it was, like, not the same concept at all. That was the only tether that we started with and wound up with.
Okay.
And I think I had, like, a melody thing that I sang at one point that Corey really liked that wound up being 2 hands on the wheel turned into one on her knee, the chorus line.
Yep.
And we left that first right with, like, almost nothing. We didn't even have Learning to Drive as the title when we left the room. That was actually, like, one of those days that you leave the writing room where, like, I remember feeling defeated. Because I was like, the song beat us.
Yeah.
We didn't get it. And maybe a week or 2 later, Corey sends me and Jeb this voice memo of the chorus, the first version of the chorus of Learning to Drive. And it's got more of the form to it. It's still kind of a jumbled mess, but it's a lot closer. And we were like, oh, that's really cool. And so Corey is still living in Georgia. So, like, we're Zoom writing to finish this thing up. And I remember when we kind of pieced together that bridge, that August was a flash, my foot stayed heavy on the gas. That was mostly Corey at that point. Like, me and Jeb were throwing a lot of those lines, like, about, like, or maybe my concept ideas for what that could be. Corey was putting a lot of that together, you know, like, credit him for, like, a lot of that song, including the lick. Like all of that was just me and Jeb got to throw some words at him, and he made it a Corey Smith song.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing about that song is on the Zoom call, Jeb goes, Corey's playing down the bridge, and he finishes out the song, and it's like one of the first times we hear the whole song top to bottom. And Jeb goes, Corey, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but this sounds like an old Corey Smith song. Like, this sounds like, and I chimed in and I go, I thought the same thing, dude. Like, this sounds like some shit I was downloading off MySpace back in the day. This sounds like vintage, old school Corey Smith, and I'm going to cry because my name is on it, you know? And to this day, I don't really listen to, like, my own music, especially not the music that has my voice on it.
Yeah.
I kind of kin that to, like, if you've ever, like, seen your own, or if you've, like, seen yourself on, like, a home video and you're like, oh, that's what I sound like. Like, that's what I end up doing myself. So I don't listen to my
every
own
week
voice.
when I listen to these podcasts. I'm like, nope. 30 seconds in. Let's shut that off.
Dude, I'm going to hate this as I watch it back or listen to it. But this song is one that, like, I kind of like, if it comes up on my phone, I don't skip it. I play it and I listen to it and I jam it because it does sound like an old Corey song that I would have absolutely loved when I was a kid. You want me to do some of that?
Sure,
too?
Yeah, let's do it.
Only just because, like, that's another one I just learned how to. I say that. Got my Chevrolet keys. The first week of June, it was my daddy's old truck, but I had it looking brand new. I drove straight to her house, took her out for a spin. I kept my hands to myself, 'cause we were still just friends back then. We swore we'd never be more, but 2 hands on the wheel turned into 1 on her knee. Taking it slow turned into picking up steam. Keeping my eyes on the road turned into looking in hers. Riding the brakes turned into hugging them curves. Yeah, that summer flew by. Learning to drive. I just learned how to play that lick, but Corey was the one that had that, like, man, what if we tied learning how to drive to learning how to love?
Yeah.
And it was like a whole summer thing. And then me and Jeb are throwing very real experiences from, like, our summers learning how to drive and getting our hearts broke and messed with by girls and whatever. So, like, man, it was such a cool journey to watch that song kind of grow and become what it is now. And one of my proudest moments as a writer, for sure.
And then full circle, you got to sit right here on the stage with Corey.
Yeah. And that was also like just a happenstance kind of thing. 'Cause like I said, Corey doesn't live in Nashville. So he just happened to be here that night, like in town. And we actually wrote that morning, and I told him, I was like, hey man, I'm playing a writer's round at this place called The Listing Room. I think you would think is really cool. And he's like, oh dude, I've heard of that place. Yeah, I want to come. And I still didn't ask him as that happened. Like, I didn't ask him to play the song. Like, I was just like, I'm going to try the song, and that will be like my little surprise to him.
Yeah.
And then, like, throughout the afternoon, we start to kind of go like, well, wouldn't it be fun if we did it together? And so at that point, I'm geeking, but I still have to play it cool, you know, on the outside. 'Cause, you know, dude, and that's a top 5 memory for me too. Like, genuinely, because I have this video of us in the green room, like, just running through it one more time before we get out here and do it. And you can see me just I'm cheesing, I'm bopping, I am living my best life, because it was one of those moments, and I'll never forget standing where I was standing and looking at Corey while he's running through the song, being frustrated because he's not playing it right. And I couldn't care less, because I'm just like, what is my life that I got to this point? What decisions did I make that landed me here? You know? And there's ups and there's downs and there's darks and there's lights all through that. And
I'm sitting on that stool in a hallway watching him perform to being on stage with him doing a song that you guys wrote.
And somehow in between all that, there are there's the Nashville journey. In the last 10 years of my life, I've had publishing deals and I've lost publishing deals. I've had record deals and I've lost record deals. I've had management deals, I've lost management deals. I've fired people. I have had to let people go. I've had to find what is next for me. I have had to readjust my own wants. And like, sometimes you can be in those and you can be like, why the shit is this happening? What is going on? Why am I not doing it right? And then you get some hindsight. And for me, I wouldn't trade anything that I went through up to this point because I love where I'm at and I love where I'm going.
Yep.
And I've never felt better about where I'm going. You know, like I'm proud of what got me here because it got me here. Even if it wasn't necessarily like how I wanted to do it or how I thought it would go or whatever that looks like, you know, in whatever circumstance.
Let's talk about where you're going because you've got upcoming project that is really cool.
Yeah, man. So this is my 10th year in town.
Yep.
And I had this idea to just kind of put like this little, call it a project, call it an EP. It's going to be 3 songs. And it's just 3 songs that I feel like really timestamp my 10th year here. And, you know, if you don't know about what a 10-year town means, like Nashville is known as a 10-year town. And 10 years is an absolute checkpoint.
Yep.
And I just felt like commemorating it, you know? And, you know, I'm going full indie again, where I'm just doing it all myself. And I'm really excited about that because I'm my own boss and I'm the only one that can tell me. It's the best way. I'm the only one that can tell me no, you know? And it has led me to some of my favorite music that I've ever written, I've ever been a part of. I'm finding my circles. In Nashville, they say cut your lane, find your own sound. And I feel like I've finally really figured out what that is. And I'm having fun doing it. But so the 10-year town EP, as it's being tentatively called right now, I don't really know what I want to call, because like I don't know if like 10-year town EP is like what the name of it is yet, but it definitely commemorates my 10th year. And it's going to be All Out of Beer. It's going to be my version of All Out of Beer, which is my first cut as a songwriter. My Nashville song, which is called Breaking Up with Nashville. And that's kind of the one that I wrote as my letter to Nashville, the industry, the town. And I wrote that last year with Jen Schott and Jeremy Bussey. And it's kind of cool that Jeremy's on that one too. And that one's just about like how I feel about this crazy ass journey that we put ourselves through. You know? And then the third song is a song I wrote with 2 really good friends of mine, Clayton Shea and Justin Holt. And it's called The Show Goes On. And that song is basically about never giving up. And I think all 3 of those songs, my goal is for those 3 songs and the testament for those 3 songs and the project to be never give up. If you're a songwriter, if you're a mom, a dad, a brother, a firefighter, whatever you are, don't give up. Stick around, have another day, because it gets better. You know, the world's weird, but there are a lot of beautiful reasons to look around and turn on a song or turn on a show or a movie or read a book, go stare at a sunset, walk your dog. Like there's like, go
100%.
Like there's a lot of really beautiful reasons to stick around. And The Show Goes On is basically like about how like we are all putting on a front that everything is cool when it may not be. And
living the social life. Yeah.
And I think that like speaks to a lot of people's journeys, not just in Nashville, but just in real life.
Absolutely.
Like the first line of that song is, you probably wouldn't notice, but I've been taking it hard. Making going through the motions look like a work of art. And the whole point of the song is the show goes on like it never even happened at all. I smile right through the pain, break a leg, and stand up tall. Like it's just that stick-to-itiveness that you kind of need to get through this industry. And through that, I saw some parallels in just like real life, regular life. You know, just like, oh, you got bills to pay and you don't know how you're going to do it, but you're going to figure it out because, you know, you always have. At least that's how I talk to myself. It's like, it's stressful. Of course it is. It's life, but it's also just life, and it's supposed to be fun while you do it.
Absolutely.
So
I know you don't have a release date yet, but can you play a little bit of Show Goes On?
Absolutely. And the release date will be like released on my socials whenever I do get it. So like Instagram,
and we will put links to all your socials and all that in our notes here. So.
And Instagram and TikTok and like all those stuff. Like I'm on all those things, and that's where I'll blast it out once I get it. We're still in the production phases of it right now, so I'm trying to like just kind of hone my excitement for it and not talk before I'm ready to. Because like my all year I've been like, it's coming this year, and we're in September already, so it's probably not coming this year.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure it's right. So anyway, this is the show. The show goes on. You probably wouldn't notice, but I've been taking it hard, making going through the motions look like a work of art. I know it's all sunshine outside, but inside it's all rain. I'll have you thinking I'm alright soon as I take the stage and the show goes on. I'm getting good at acting like I'm so strong. When everything is going wrong, I smile right through the pain, break a leg and stand up tall. The show goes on like it never even happened at all. My way of coping is keeping them in the dark. Look at them throwing roses like I'm some kind of star. As soon as I hear how you've been, I take that as my cue. I tell you how I'd felt, but then I'd have to feel it too. So the show goes on. I'm getting good at acting like I'm so strong. When everything is going wrong, I smile right through the pain, break a leg and stand up tall. The show goes on like it never even happened at all.
Man, can't wait for that to come out, dude.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Don't give up. Stick around.
Yeah, that's right.
Show goes on.
That's right. Well, we're almost out of time, but I want to just touch on something real quick. Because I think this is really cool that you're still doing this. During COVID, we all kind of like went into a what do we do now moment.
For sure.
And I had multiple conversations going back to Ward. I mean, he and I were calling each other like what are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like both of us were kind of collabing on like this idea of like, hey, let's just go live on Instagram. Like, you know, like all this kind of stuff. And you started Whiskey Nights,
right?
And you're still doing it. And like so many of us back then was like, okay, let's do that. And as soon as we could open back up, we were like, all right, let's get back to work.
Sure.
But like, I think it's really cool that you've kept that going. So I want to talk about that a little bit and like really what inspired it and why you've kept it going for, 4 years now.
Well, COVID inspired it, like you said. Like it became, we can't play shows. So this is my outlet to play songs and music. And like, these are my shows is kind of what I was thinking in 2020. And I've just kind of carried that mindset because as we rolled out of like the heaviness of the pandemic and we were allowed to go outside and do things again, I didn't have the same like band guys that I was playing with, and that's nobody's fault. It just like when COVID happened, like all my guys dispersed and had to find jobs, just like we all did. And I wasn't able to kind of piece that back together. And I had kind of moved on to like a new sound, and then I was starting to really, okay, so this is like summer of 21 as I'm talking about this, like putting shows together. And I actually did like this circuit of Tin Roof shows through the Southeast. Mm-hmm. And it was fun, and we had some cool memories on it. But man, for the most part, it felt like a very like duct taped together version of what I wanted to do. And I was very tired of misrepresenting myself by that point, long short of it.
Yeah.
And so talking about taking control back, that's kind of been my journey since COVID, is just like, what do you want to do? And how do you want to do it?
So good.
I feel like I looked for outside validation a lot very early in my journey, and I kept going like, hey, Chris, is this cool? Do you like this? I think I like this. Do you like this? And if you didn't like it, then I would kind of not like it as much. And I don't really feel that way anymore. Now it's more like, hey, Chris, I think this is really cool. I hope you like this too. And if you don't like it, that's so fine. It'll be over here if it grows on you.
Yeah.
You know? And I feel like my music is just going to like naturally find the people it's supposed to find. And with the live streams, I basically looked at that as booking shows is feeling weird for me right now in whatever a lot of ways. I can sit here. I'm already sitting here each week on my Instagram, basically practicing over a glass of whiskey, like these songs that I'm writing and like acoustic versions of the songs that I had put out and had cuts with other people.
Yeah.
And as far as like numbers go, I don't even know how many people watch it on a week-to-week basis, but there's always people in there, and that's why I just keep doing it. Because they keep showing up when I go live, and that's enough of a reason for me to like just keep on doing it, you know?
Love it.
And sometimes I ramble like I have on here, and I talk too much, and I play too many songs, and I might even get a little too drunk on the internet, and you know, I have to like not do that anymore. But it's still so much fun, man, because it's just a very genuine version of where I'm at and what I'm going through, and that's through just me talking, but also like me playing music. Like, hey, here's the music that I'm really feeling right now. Even if it doesn't necessarily get a chance to come out, this is just where I am.
Yeah.
You know, this is my human experience. This is my show. Like, this is my gig for my fans and followers and the people that like my music. But it's also like just me keeping y'all up to date on where I'm at and what I'm up to, you know?
Yeah.
Because I know to a lot of outside folks that maybe don't see me in person every day, they probably think I'm just like sitting around doing nothing and not putting music out. But it's couldn't be further from the truth. I never stopped working on music.
Yeah.
Since I was a 14-year-old kid, I've been working on music, you know?
Yeah.
And that's all I do. And I have really worked at honing that sound and like that thing that really feels genuine and authentic to me. And man, I couldn't have that either without Whiskey Nights. Like that live stream was something I started in the pandemic. I called it something else to get started. I don't even remember what that was. Something living room or whatever. It kind of formed into, like I said, a more organic and very real version of me. I like whiskey. I'm a bourbon guy. I like a good, glass of whiskey to end my night. And it's also nice on the chords when you're about to sing a song.
Yeah.
And so, like, when I sit up here and play a show at Listening Room, I typically have at least one glass with me just because that's kind of how I roll. I like that,
Yeah.
And that's kind of how that idea formed, was just like, how about I just sit here with my drink and play y'all some songs? Because that's all I really want to do anyway.
Man,
and
I love it.
That's where it all is. And we're going to keep on doing it until the day I open my phone up and there is just zero for the first like 5 to 10 minutes, I'm like, all right, I get it. This is done. We're done doing this now.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet.
Yeah, I love that you kept it going. It's really cool.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
It means a lot.
I've got one more question to wrap it up, but I want to make a comment before that, because I want to go back to the beginning when you were talking about influences and what you just said. I think it's really cool that you're like, I was a lot of the same way in the beginning of like, it was almost like I needed approval from people, and like same thing. Like I would write a song, like someone said, I don't like it. I would be like, oh, okay, let's put that in the guitar.
Yeah, I guess I don't either.
So, but I think it's cool that you're like, you know what, this is who I am, and this is what I am, and you don't need approval, and the people that will find you. And then I go back to Alan Jackson, Eric Church, and Merle.
Yep.
And when I think about all of them as artists, they were exactly the same way. They were like, they're different. They were like, this is who I am, take it or leave it. I don't care. And so I just applaud you for that, because it's when I see someone with the talent like you have that gets in their lane and is like, okay, like it's the light bulb goes off and it's like, okay, this is who I am. Now the people that like it can get on board, but it's more about that instead of like, I hope everybody likes this, because nobody's gonna ever.
You're never going to catch everybody.
Right.
And that's one thing that I have definitely learned throughout my journey. Like when you start doing this as a teenager, you don't know what self-esteem even is.
Yeah.
And you don't really have much of it to start with. And I definitely didn't.
Yeah.
Like my self-esteem was all phony. Like all my confidence and cockiness when I was a teenager was an absolute front. The show goes on. Like that's exactly what that was. And I just figured out how to carry myself just confidently enough to pull it off. And that's a learned thing, is like, you know, that's the coolest compliment that you could have just paid me, honestly, because like, I remember I still feel like that 19-year-old kid that doesn't know what he's doing most days. Like, I'm just making this up as I go. And that's all I've ever been doing. But when you do this long enough, Nashville's a war of attrition. Mm-hmm. If you don't give up, you just might win at some point. Yep. There's absolutely no timeline anybody can give you. There's no formula or mathematical equation. I don't care what algorithm might dictate whatever. There is absolutely no way that you know how this is going to work or how long it's going to take. And the thing that I moved to Nashville with, just to round this whole thing out, you asked me, like, what made you move to Nashville, or what made you, like, come here in the first place? I said I wanted to just make music. And I wanted to make very genuine music because I felt like there was genuine music for me to make at some point. I didn't know that it was going to take me 10, 11, 12, however many years at this point to get there. But I'm so glad that I got there. And I'm like, there has been music that I've put out that I've been very proud of. And I've never been more proud of the music that hasn't come out yet. Like, my favorite songs that I'm going to put out for people, like, y'all haven't even heard yet. And that makes me so excited for the future. So I'm stoked, man. And thank you so much for saying that and having me. This has been so much fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. Always end on this.
Okay.
If you can go back to 8-year-old Jordan, sitting in Georgia, everything that you've gone through and learned so far, what advice do you give yourself today?
I'm going to borrow one from my wife, actually, but she said it first, but I love this. And I kind of live by this now. Do it scared. If it scares you, it's always going to scare you. If it scares you, there's an excitement that you want to do it. You know, like, there's that, whatever that might be, the danger, the excitement, whatever it might be. If it scares you, then it's because there's a part of you that kind of wants to do it. So do it scared. Do it anyway, because you're never going to be not scared of it. You're only going to be less scared of it. And for me, dude, jumping to Nashville was incredibly scary at the time. I just, like, didn't think about it. I didn't think about how I wasn't thinking about it because I was a teenager. Now, as an adult, I have to literally go into each situation like, don't overthink it. Do it scared. And that's the thing that I would have just tattooed on little 8-year-old me's wrist, you know? Just like, hey, just write that down and remember that forever, because that's going to come in handy.
Do it scared.
Yeah.
Love
do it scared. Thanks,
Jordan,
man.
Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been a blast.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, again, we'll put all the links to your socials and on all that in our liner notes, so everybody out there listening can follow you, and we'll just keep being fans and having you back here anytime you want, man.
See you at the room.
Yes. All right, everybody out there listening, we appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, share this with your friends. We appreciate it. You've been listening to another episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Jordan Rager, and we will see you next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. Make sure to give us a follow on Spotify if you enjoyed this episode, and make sure you click that notification button so you can keep notified when new episodes come out. We release brand new episodes every Tuesday, and you can find us on YouTube at Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to send us a comment letting us know what you thought of the episodes. We love getting your feedback, and share this with your friends. The more we grow, the more that we can keep doing this. It's our mission to bring you all of these great stories behind the songs from some of Nashville's most iconic artists and songwriters, publishers, producers, everyone in between, and a lot of my great friends. We love what we do, and we love sharing their stories with you. We appreciate all of the continued support. Thanks also to all of our sponsors, and we will see you all next week.